can't believe that done. Anyway,
Oh, it's just shocking.
What we saw in Britain. I followed the BBC coverage almost from day one, and it was magnificent. Hugh Evans, who was their senior presenter, showed all the class, all the poise.
And the punt's home by Tim Cahill. Australia have done it. 6 minutes to go, and it's a landmark moment for Australian football. Tim Cahill has scored the nation's first ever World Cup Finals goal.
You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.
Yes, that's right. State of Our Football Nation back for another week. George Donikian and Lachie Flannigan on the program. We're not the only ones who are back this week.
No, that's very true.
Socceroos.
The Socceroos are back, and we've got a special guest who'll tell us all about them.
And a special guest. It's all happening, all action at the station. Yes, the Socceroos are back, and also back on the program today. None other than 10 football commentator Robbie Thomson. Robbie, great to have you on.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good to be here on such an auspicious occasion as the Socceroos back in action.
In 100 years after the two nations first played out a meaningful contest, that's something. I mean, the past week has been all about history, and here it is. We've gone from the pomp and pageantry and the remarkable goings on in Britain. And they were remarkable. And here we are now talking about more history. This time it's on the field of sport, and it's our nearest neighbour, New Zealand, the one we're going to share a Women's World Cup with next year. And I think this will be very special. I trust it's poignant for a great many people. And so many things have been happening, Robbie. You'll be commentating the game in New Zealand, but there's one happening tonight as well.
Absolutely, and it's a special because on so many levels, like you say, George, and also the fact that this is the farewell game before the Socceroos head off to the World Cup. So they managed to qualify in extremis. We all remember that at the start of winter against Peru in Qatar already. So look, to be back here now. I think there are a lot of things and lots of interesting talking points about the squad, about the fact that we're playing these two matches, about how we're limbering up for this World Cup, which is going to be a special and particular World Cup as well. So plenty to talk about, and the fact that it's 100 years on from the very first match for us, but also for New Zealand as well. It was their first ever football international as well. These are going to be a special couple of matches.
And the match is available on 10 on the major platform, and also I think streaming on 10 Play. Is that correct?
That's correct. Available, and I think it's on Paramount Plus as well. It's across the board. You can't miss it if you're a football fan. That
No
is.
reason to miss it. What have you made of the team selections? You, of course, will be running your eyes over it for a number of reasons. You'll be calling, of course, the game, the return game in Auckland. What have you made of the two teams? And, of course, the fact that we've got Hus Hiddink in the house. We've got Graham Arnold with a smile. And I mean that in a lovely way, because he had to endure all the slings and arrows of every pundit on the planet who told him, and they tend to do it very well these days, we have more pundits than there are footballers, I think, playing the game around the world. And they all have an opinion. They're all masterful coaches. They've never done a course in their lives, or if they've done it, it's an A course. It's not an A, B, C, or D course.
I feel like I should be holding my hands up this time. I'm sorry, I got it wrong.
No. You're allowed to have an opinion. And you're allowed to have the opportunity to comment. This is what we do on FNR on so many levels. But I'm fascinated what you're making of this, Robbie, because you're immersed in it. You have to watch it from 50 different levels, not just being a spectator. For you, it's hard work. So what are you making of it?
Well, I think you've hit on a million interesting points there, George. The fact that everyone can have an opinion, yes, of course, that's the beauty of the game. The more opinions mean that it matters to more people.
Yep.
I love the fact that people can say all sorts of outlandish things that really doesn't worry me. If they can justify it, that's even better. If they can have a position and rationalize it and use logical arguments, that's great. But I'm not adverse to a bit of, poor logic when it comes to being a football fan, and a little bit of exactly a bit of heart on the sleeve, and look, why are we playing so bad? Come on, we've got to, that sort of passion is the passion that goes and buys a shirt for you and your kids and your dad and all that, and spends your last money on catching a plane to Brisbane to go and see the team and bid them farewell. So look, logic, yes. Level-headedness, yes, possibly more for me or a journalist or someone that has to commentate a match. I think that's important. But look, I'm all one for having a bit of a bit of irrationality when it comes to being a football fan. One thing I'll pull you up on, George. You said, what can I tell you about the two teams? Are you talking just about the Socceroos? Because there are enough players there to have about three starting 11s. And for me, this is one of the big talking points that I haven't heard too many people talking about it. Maybe I'm wrong, but we've been seeing the Matildas 9 months out from co-hosting a World Cup with New Zealand, as you said, who their coach Tony Gustafsson has basically said, "I'm narrowing in now on my 23. I've got this 23 a year out from the tournament, and yes, we may have a bolter, but I'm looking for stability and serenity and taking this team through to the World Cup." When I think about previous examples and what I've seen before in world football, this makes a little bit of sense to me. Having a team that knows how to play together a year out, heading to the World Cup. And yes, you can open the door a little bit for something that could happen in this coming year, obviously.
Correct.
What's curious to me about what has just happened, and it gets more and more curious every time I switch on the computer or have a look or chat to someone in the Socceroos camp, is that we've picked, I think, how many players are there that have never played for the soccer? I think it's 5 or 6 that are uncapped.
Yes.
Thomas Deng has 1 cap. Mitch Langerak is coming back after 4 years in the wilderness.
Yes.
All of this is great. All of this is great, but we're 2 months out from the World Cup. This is the last game in Australia before the World Cup. This is the last window. These are the last 2 games before the World Cup, before we go into that 2-week, 3-week period in November to prepare for France on the 22nd of November. And that's not, France are a big little mouthful to start chewing on. This is, I think it's good, but I wonder if it's not in response to the bad press that the Matildas have received, or if Arnie is really saying, I don't want to have all these people in November when I announced the squad saying, where's Cam Devlin? Where's Jason Cummings? Where's Garang Kuol? He didn't even look at these guys. So maybe it's a smart bit of
Play.
communication. Bring them
Yeah.
all in. Let's go. I've had a look at everyone. Now, when November comes, when I announce the squad, we can be serene. And there I can find that stability in this squad. But even bringing Goose Hiddink, I thought this is nice. Hiddink's obviously manager of the century. We'll get to that in a moment. You know, bring him back.
Raleigh will not be happy.
Exactly. But then Arnie said yesterday that I want Goose to cast his eye over all these guys and that he's here to work. And he's doing, he's going to have his 2 cents on what we see over these next 2 matches. Fair enough. Goose Hiddink is a legend and was legend for Australia. Fantastic. But, there's something that I find it's not reassuring heading 2 months out from World Cup to bring in a pedestal assistant coach just for 2 weeks. Maybe it's great for morale. Maybe I'm reading this all wrong, but I'm coming out with more questions than answers at the moment.
I'm watching Lachie, and he's nodding with you when you're talking and saying, I have reservations.
Is that a good thing, George?
Let's extrapolate.
What sparked in my brain is like, is this the equivalent of like a Labour leader who wants to sort of positive like the late Bob Hawke, like let's get a photo with him. This is what we need.
No, it's more than that. It's more than that. It's push polling at its best. You run everybody out there and you say, look, I'm giving everyone a chance. But I'm also reading what Robbie's alluding to, and that is, wouldn't you think right now you'd have that team, the core of that team, settled and making sure you've got a cover for every player? Yes or no, Robbie?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he does.
That's what I would have thought.
Maybe this is only communication. But, he's also said he's going to play more or less 2 different sides against New Zealand tonight and then on Sunday. So that, again, means having a look at because I've seen the 23 or 24 for tonight's game. They're not all there. The 31-man squad obviously can't fit all onto that team sheet. So there are going to be a number of players who are on the team sheet tonight that aren't going to be in Auckland in 3 days' time. And maybe Arnie does. I like Arnie. I've got a lot of time for Arnie. I think he's a great servant for Australian football. I think he's done a great job, as you said, in the face of much adversity, where he's tried to get the job done. And ultimately, we're going, which is, a wonderful thing. And Arnie or whoever is just about in charge of the Socceroos will always have my backing. Nearly always to get the job done, particularly when they're getting the job done. So I've no problem with Arnie. I've got a lot of respect for him. I think he's a lot better at tactics than people give him credit for. I chat to Arnie before I commentate a match and get down into the nuts and bolts of what he's trying to achieve. And it's a good conversation that we have together, and I like what he does. So, but there are lots. I mean, where's Tommy Rogic? Is he going to just come back in, having just missed a huge window last time against UAE and Peru, missing again this time, but now there seems to be, murmurs about that, Tommy Rogic could be there. This 31-man squad as well, I heard that the net was cast a little bit wider than that as well. I think there were a couple of players that they tried to also bring in that decided that perhaps this is a bit of communication. He does have that shell, that center rather, that nut of a squad that he wants. Then look, these are games to enjoy, to send us off, and maybe it is a good photo opportunity. Maybe that's what we need as well. A bit of smile and a bit of adrenaline and a bit of good times to head us off to a World Cup on the back of a wave.
Well, you mentioned the number of players who are uncapped. I mean, I was just having a glance while you were talking about that, the number who have under 5 caps, and I think it's 14 from the total of 31. So it's nearly half who've had less than 5 experiences playing for that national team. And maybe there are some of these players that are being thrown into the squad in an effort to say, here we go, I've got them there, I'm giving them the chance. But of those ones who have come in, are there any that sort of stick out at you as being sort of most likely to maybe stick around and maybe make their way to Qatar?
I think the big one, and I think we have to see how the two obvious ones that people have been baying for are Jason
Jason
Cummings
Cummings
and
and
Garang
Garang
Kuol.
Qual.
Yep.
Just because we see them on the local scene. One is a youngster who's so exciting and clearly has no fear and is prepared to take on anyone and do whatever he wants, Garang Kuol. So look, if he can shoulder the responsibility of these two games, if he gets to run in both games, that will be definitely one to keep an eye on. We obviously know that all the rumours about that he's heading on for bigger and better things in Europe soon. So look, all that is very positive. Yeah.
What do you make of those rumours? There's an awful lot of scuttlebutt going on around about agents, being pushed to one side, people who've worked to support him and put him into that position and protect him from a host of different distractions. And suddenly we've got, let's just say, an intermediary. And suddenly, isn't that a brand new phrase that we're seeing a lot more of? I saw a magnificent interview on Talk Sport in Britain about 3 weeks ago, and they actually had one of these so-called intermediaries, and he was very particular. I'm not an agent, I'm an intermediary. And he was telling them what he could do, what he was doing, and how capable he was doing it, and why he deserved the millions of dollars coming his way, because he delivered what he promised he would deliver. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, if you're a young boy or a young girl and you're being pushed around the planet to play in some of the biggest and most wonderfully elite competitions on the planet, you not only need your head screwed on, you also need an enormous dose of good fortune, not to fall into the hands of, dare I say it, predators. So there's the question I'm asking. Is this another challenge for the young man?
Yeah, it certainly appears to be. I don't know all, there's so much talk going on, and I'm always very, very wary of believing too much of what comes out. I mean, these are where there's smoke, there's fire sort of thing, but sometimes there's just so much smoke, there cannot possibly be that much fire. And
well,
so
I know
when
there's
you
a
have
court case. I know there's a court case in the background, and one of the agents who's worked so hard to protect the young man can't say anything. So we're in that little limbo area, whereas journalists, we have to be on the right side and make sure that the court gets to see the case in all its colours and
one thing
and
I
as
will
little
say,
distortion
George,
as possible.
Absolutely. One thing I will say is that, and it's interesting on the term intermediary. I'm not sure. Are you allowed to use the term agent anymore? Is the term agent an official
agent provocateur,
term?
perhaps, Robbie?
Exactly, maybe. Well, that's generally, and perhaps that's what we're hearing is what's going on here. I've seen it and heard of it too many times where these intermediaries come in and they do more harm than good, because look, they want a slice of the pie. They're seeing that it's a very big pie, and they wonder why they can't. It doesn't look that hard, does it? Everyone thinks they can be a football agent. I mean, is it really that hard? Well, it is. There's training, and above all, you have to have a great sense of what's best. You've got to have the experience. I know that Garang's age or representative that leading into all this is a man with a great reputation.
Correct.
And has done this for many, many years, has the experience.
John Gabol has done a great job. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So all of this is, points to the fact that somewhere along the line, the deal has been hijacked. And when I think of past players, like I remember one story about a player that was about to sign for Liverpool. In the end, the deal didn't go through because of a failed medical for a knee. But what I heard was the story was the brother turned up on the day of the signing of the contract and wanting his slice of the pie, and saying that he was there to represent the player. It was a French player, a France international who was heading to Liverpool, and in the end, the deal fell through. He went back to his club in France and now is playing in Spain. So if the sleuths out there can work out who it is, maybe. But
Yeah.
it was
Piecing it together as I was listening.
Yes.
But look,
If I could,
these things never work out the way you imagine they could. Look at what's happening with Paul Pogba at the moment. I mean, it's not to do with deal. I mean,
that's a horror story.
Karim Benzema's been involved in a full cupboard of horror stories due to people that say they're representing him. I mean, look, it doesn't
Carlos
end well.
Tevez. Remember the Carlos
easy.
Tevez story?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I could change tact slightly about the sort of move for Garing, putting the sort of
A different spin?
intermediary things to side and just
Okay.
assessing the move purely on its merits. Obviously, the club that he's linked with is Newcastle, and the idea is that he'll head there and be potentially loaned out to a Portuguese club
yeah.
or something like that. We talk a lot and maybe stress a lot about when is the right time for talented Australian youngsters to make the move. Is now too soon? Do players wait too long? All these kind of things. Do you have a position where it relates to this move? Is Garang? I mean, yes, he's been really talented of what we've seen him do in the A-League, but he has only
200
played
minutes of
He
football.
has only played 7 times. He's only had a handful of
seven A-League matches.
a handful of starts. It's a small sample size. Do you think maybe to make that jump is perhaps too early? Should he be spending more time in the A-League?
It would be great for us that he spends more time in the A-League. I think at 7 games into your professional career, from that respect, it doesn't hurt to have another 6 months. Perhaps he'll get another 10, 13 games. Is that really enough to then head off overseas? Probably not enough to get you into a Premier League squad. But these Portuguese sides are very good at picking up and nurturing young talent as well. And what I will say is that it is a big step up. It is a big step up going from a 17-year-old playing A-League to being a 17-year-old that's breaking through in a European first division or second division, or a professional environment. When I think of 17-year-olds that burst onto the scene in France, I can think of someone like Eden Hazard, who was 16. We're talking that kind of quality, but
Javi.
And it's rare. Yeah, look at Barcelona. These kids that break through at very young ages. But look, it's not easy. And I think to go to Newcastle, to sign for Newcastle, look, that's probably financially very lucrative. It's probably a great thing to set up yourself and your family for years and years to come. So look, you can't deny the kid that aspect of it. In terms of learning his football, I think going to Portugal at 17, if you've got, and this comes back to the chat we just had, if you've got a stable entourage, a good environment around you, if you can concentrate on your football there away from the limelight, because I don't think it's great for a 17-year-old to be a big fish in Australia and then go to Europe with all this expectation, all this weight, and say, where is he? Where's he gone? What's happened?
Here I am.
Well,
He's
learning exactly. And for people back here as well to be going, look, it's waiting for him to fall on his face or her face.
Well, we saw it with Azani, didn't we? We saw it with young Daniel Azani. He went too early. He should have stayed another year.
Yeah. Or go and do it quietly in the background. Learn the ropes of a big European league, whether it be in the second division. Look at the 2 kids that left Adelaide that have gone to Reims. And I know I bring it back to French football far too often, probably for your audience as well. I apologize.
No, that's all right.
But, Mo Toure and Yaya Doucoulé have gone to Stade de Reims. Toure's already got a couple of goals in the reserves. Doucoulé's come off the bench and started a couple of games in the reserves. But this is the reserves playing in a semi-professional third division or fourth division competition in national, but down. It's not the first team. And look, they're learning their trade. It's good. Give them the time. You can't go. I don't think you have to be something pretty special to go from an A-League side at 18 straight into a European first team. It probably can happen, but that is a big step. It's a big step up.
I'm reminded yet again of Connor Metcalf. I'm seeing a Danny Jean-Rowe.
Fantastic.
And I'm reminded of going back a number of years ago to Bresciano and the others who came through Empoli when Empoli was in Serie B, not Serie A.
Yeah,
and then they moved their way up along with the rest of the team. But they had quite a number of games. They'd been tested.
I think Vincent Brett even went off on loan to Ternana, I think, for a season before going back to Empoli in the second division. Yeah, look.
And boy, that helped them enormously to bed themselves in and gave them the confidence and the smarts to understand how to cope with the masters of the dark arts in the then very tough Serie A when it was really one of the great competitions of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a
interesting
big
times.
Step up, and yeah, absolutely. But good for him. I say go. Look, I say go. If you're not going to play, if you're just going to sit on a bench at Newcastle, then come back. But if you're going to play in a Portuguese second division side with the first team, you're going to train with a couple of young Brazilians, or not to be stereotypical, but some great Portuguese players. We know how good they are as well. That for the last 15, 20 years. Technically with passion, there are good schools to come through. And Paul Ocon said it the other day, and on an interview I saw, he said, "Look, Australia's great up until 16, 17, but if you want to make it at the next level, Europe just steps ahead because there are so many clubs."
Robbie, that's the university.
Clubs.
Europe is the university, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
We can all go to our college and to our high school, up until 16, 17. But if we want to mature and if we want to test ourselves, we've got to go to uni, haven't we?
Yep.
Yeah, and the University of Football.
That's my opinion. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you're the commentator. What are you expecting tonight? You're not calling tonight, but you're calling Sunday's game on 10. What are we going to see tonight? The game, by the way, 8 o'clock on Channel 10.
Yeah, remember across the board, Paramount 10 play.
Correct. What are you expecting to see?
I'm expecting to see a bit of rivalry early. I mean, the Kiwis can't really be that motivated. Let's face it; they missed out on the World Cup. Unluckily, I think they have a great squad. I think they've got a quality footballers in their squad as well. And I think if they'd qualified for the World Cup, this would have been a really tasty doubleheader because I think it would have been both sides looking to prepare. As it is, they've brought in some new faces as well. It'll be good for the A-League fans to see the Wellington Phoenix boys. There's Dane Ingham there as well. There's a couple of, and there's Chris Wood from Newcastle who actually plays with the first team Newcastle. There are a couple of kids. There's another one at Empoli, Cacace, and Torino in Italy as well. There's FC Copenhagen. So they've got a good squad so they can put up resistance, and I think they will be fired up at the start. I think this is there'll be that trans-Tasman rivalry, and then from Australia. I mean, wouldn't we love to just see? And maybe this is part of if it all works off the way I imagine they've envisaged these two games, to play some expansive football, to just get rid of the pressure. We're qualified. We don't have to worry about if we get a point from Japan and then we play Saudi Arabia and then Oman, and we were all calculating points and what we need to do to try and just get across the line. And then it was UAE and then Peru, and thank God Peru played for penalties as well. The crazy guys. And so now we've got this opportunity to just let it go, play football. There are kids here that have never played. I would love to see that. I would love to see, Jason Cummings is another one who I think could make the squad. Cummings, because I think he's a bit older physically. I don't think he's the greatest striker we've ever had, but look, we need someone to score goals. We've tried a lot of players in the last few months. We need a number 9. I don't see, Taggart's there as well, but he's been out. I mean, there's an opportunity here for him.
Robbie, he brings to the party a very special ingredient we don't see nearly enough of, and it's called mongrel.
Yeah.
He loves a challenge. He loves actually taking people on. He loves the physical part of it. And I'm not overplaying that. He actually enjoys it. You can see it. I watched a couple of interviews after, the games where he's performed well, and he's beaming. And that's what I love to see. I love to see any professional, male or female, if they're doing a great job, if they've had a great show us what it means to you, because if we're fans, can you imagine what it means to us? You know, there's a young man at the moment, you know, in America playing for the New York Yankees, and he's on a tear. He's doing the stuff of legends. His name is Aaron Judge, and he's just hit 60 homers in a season where only, you know, the great Babe Ruth and a guy called Roger Maris hit for the, you know, in the American League 60. One did it 95 years ago, and the other one did it 61 years ago. So it's a season for the ages, and the whole of New York is getting excited. The Yankees universe is getting excited, and I don't think there's anything better. And you're saying to us now, let them play, yeah. And I love that. I love that note in your voice, because I can tell you're looking forward to Sunday when you get your chance to call the game in New Zealand. What time's the game on the Sunday?
It's, well, in New Zealand it's 3:00. Here it's 1:00. So
Right.
there'll be a perfect Sunday afternoon
Barbecue.
Kickoff time here. Exactly. Barbecue, put it on the big screen, project it in the backyard onto the back of the garage,
Perfect.
and enjoy it. Turn the sound up.
My brother and I used to play in the backyard, and he actually ran through the garage wall one day, and we had to explain it to my father. Yeah. We had to explain it to my father. Look, Dad, he tripped and ran straight into the wall and went straight through the fibre. The sorts of things we used to do in those days.
Honestly, if there was a player in the Socceroos squad that I wouldn't be shocked to find out has run through a garage door at some stage, it probably would be Jason Cummings. To be honest with you, I think he's got that.
Yeah.
He's got that sort of attitude. But I do think a personality like his, maybe the Socceroos could use a few more players like that for fans to really connect to and I think get behind.
Yeah, we need character. The team needs character. I think we don't have. Yeah, Martin Boyle. But I was going to say, we all know we have so many players in Scotland at the moment, and to the great joy of Lachie. But Scotland's not known for being the most technical.
We've tied him
leagues.
down so he can control the console. We let him go. It's unimaginable things happen.
I've got a Braveheart stinger ready to go. But I'm not allowed to press that button.
I'm just
wondering. Sorry, Robbie.
Well, I'm just wondering if this Scottish element that we have, and I'm talking about the Aussies that have gone to play in Scotland now, not the Harry Souters. I mean, do we know how Harry's going? Is he going to be back in time?
He's on the mend. He's on the mend.
He's on track? Okay, because that's really touch and go now. He's not going to have played, not for Australia, for a year. But, I wonder if that, when you talk about mongrel, when you talk about, and I know if you play in Italy, if you play in Spain, you know how to be tough because they're very tough leagues as well.
Yeah.
But if you're playing in Scotland, it's physical first and foremost. It's fast. You've got to win your one-on-one, and maybe we need that. Like you say, when we can't be like Spain or Italy or Germany, where it's ultra professional, where the players don't need to talk because everyone is mad about it. We need to have, like you say, players with a bit of character, players with a bit of Aussie about them, or Scots Aussie about them that can bring people in and make it attractive. Yeah, we need that. That's the position we're in. We can't just have, players that don't ever say anything because they're the best players in the world. We don't have the best players in the world, so we make up with it with character. That's normal. Look what Atletico Madrid did for years and years before being in a position to buy the best players in the world. But that they built their reputation on character. There are clubs, there are teams, there are nations that build their character. Uruguay build their team character on character. They are fearsome. We need that. We need some of that.
On the subject of character, and another competition you've been heavily involved with recently, of course, is the Australia Cup. There's been no shortage of character in that particular competition. How have you enjoyed the last few rounds? You've presided over some pretty exciting games, and one more yet to come in the form of MacArthur and Sydney United.
Yeah, fantastic. It's the competition that we know we'd all been crying out for in Australia, the one that reunites the pyramid. I think there's so much talk about national second division and promotion relegation. It's a lot more complicated than all that. This cup competition is great. It does that. It's not professional clubs. It's not a professional second division, which we clearly need as well. But in terms of having a national competition where amateurs and your local club can go all the way to the very top. That's what football is all about. And that's what we've seen. For the first time, we had 2 NPL clubs, regional semi-professional clubs, to put it another way, without perhaps the glamour of NPL or Premier League clubs. We had 2 regional semi-professional clubs in the semi-finals of the competition against the big guns. Both of them knocked out top-tier opposition. Oakley were fantastic before coming undone in their semi-final against Macarthur. Sydney United have gone all the way. They are, unlike Oakley, who don't have an NSL past. Sydney United do. They were part of the old soccer. They were top tier back in the 1980s and 90s, and a very good side in the late 90s as well. A couple of grand finals, a premiership. So look, for them to be there, I was chatting to the coach of the club, the president at Sydney United when I was there. It hasn't changed. It's old school Australian soccer. Their Croatian heritage. They're proud of it. We're going to know all about it at Parramatta Stadium on the 1st at 7:45 when that game kicks off. And plug again with me and Harps commentating and on Channel 10 and 10 Play as well. But that is good. They've sold out. I think it's already nearly 10,000 seats because the Croatian Cup is on in Sydney that weekend as well. So it's for something that for so long, and George, you know this because you lived it at the time, and I was down in Melbourne or in Canberra at the time as well.
Yep.
We used to love, me as a your white Aussie, Anglo Aussie, loving the cultural diversity of Australian soccer back then. It opened doors onto the world for me, and to see that still there, still going. It was forgotten for a little while, but it's still there. It's still going strong, and now that there's a feeling that we can celebrate it. And I think that shows how far we've come and how much stronger we are as not only as a football community, but as a nation, that we can celebrate the Croatian Cup, and the fact that this place is going to be red, white and blue for a cup final is awesome. Let's celebrate it. Let's celebrate their contribution to this great game in Australia. And just as we did with Oakley, with the Greek heritage of that club getting there and taking on these big guys, and the fact that Macarthur have a Mexican, that they have a superb player, that they have an Iranian Australian on the left wing, that they have a Sudanese Australian on the right wing. All of this is what's brilliant and is going to be superb at this cup final.
Robbie, just to give you a little bit more info and ammunition for your call, we spoke to the sporting director of Macarthur, Sam Krislovich, whose parents were part of Sydney United, Sydney 58. So it's basically the club
the Sam
playing
Krislovich derby.
Don't laugh. I mean, this is the extraordinary thing. It's this new age project team called Macarthur, which now plays in the A-League, up against one of the grand old NSL clubs of this country that produced, and I can remember calling a game for SBS a lifetime ago, and the man of the match that day was a young kid called Graham Arnold, and their goalkeeper, who was very, very nervous because I had to do an interview with him, and the first thing he said to me was, what are you going to ask me? I said, nothing you can't answer. And his name was Mark Bosnich. God forbid that he was nervous, that he was petrified. But they were.
Doesn't sound like Bosnich.
No, he was. Let me tell you, he was on this path to making a name for himself. And young Graham, helped. It was a tremendous game. It was Sydney Olympic, and it was Vedran Rosic's great, Sydney, Croatia. And it was played at Adenza when the grass was green and cow pasture road was not that far away. But the energy of the crowd, the fans, I can tell you what, they're interchangeable. That's the most wonderful thing. The crowd that you witnessed the other day, play. I put it to you that it was probably their parents and their grandparents calling all the action then. So it's wonderful to see a brand new generation all fired up and believing. And there's nothing more wonderful than, believing that you can do something. Now, whether you can do it or not, that's the whole point of playing. I keep saying to Lachie all the time,
that's competition.
Lachie, It's you're talking about two teams on paper. Let's wait till a game is played, which is why we play it, which is why Robbie gets excited and calls it. Isn't that right? It's
Absolutely.
not played on the
Anything
paper.
can happen.
Oh, yeah.
No, absolutely. And another, just a quick little side note and an interesting one is that Miro Vlastelica, the coach of Sydney United, played back in those days in the early 80s. He was on the bench, played for the reserves at Sydney United. His son is captain of the team at the moment, and for me that just says it all about this club. This is a club, they wear the club on their sleeve. And I said this the other day, and I actually ran into them down in Melbourne. Both he and Mark Ivancic, the president of Sydney United, were there to watch Oakley versus MacArthur in the flesh. And I said to Mark, because where we were commentating, they had a computer there, and it was the president of Sydney United, when the scoreboard clock stopped working, who ran around the back and fixed the clock on the scoreboard at Adenza Park. The president of the club. I mean, it's superb. That's exactly what it's all about. And these guys, they bleed for that club. They're the volunteers, everyone pulling together, and this is their reward. It's been a hard slog for 20 years. For 17 years of the A-League or whatever it is, and now this is a moment. This is their time in the sun.
You're right. They've been in the wilderness, and there's nothing more exhilarating than an opportunity to be included. Lachie has been calling a lot of the NPL action through this year, and I've watched him throughout the season, and he's been galvanised and super excited by some of the contests. And in fact, you can tell, Robbie, you saw a game a couple of weeks back, and you thought it was the best game you've seen, period, whatever it was.
Yeah, the Heidelberg-Oakley elimination final.
Tell Robbie what you said.
Robbie would be familiar, I'm sure, that it was went to extra time with a free kick in the last minute of the game and then a penalty shootout. It was just like you could have had any two teams. That could have been a State League 5 Southeast game, and it would have been incredible. Like the fact that it was NPL was superb.
Which goes back to what we're saying. These great clubs now are putting their hand up, and they believe there's nothing more exciting than a little blood in the water.
Yeah,
the Sharks are coming, and the action is exhilarating.
Yeah, I almost feel like if I was going to create a first year of the open draw in the Australia Cup, what final do we want? If I was going to put one together in a lab, Sydney United and MacArthur wouldn't be a million miles away from what I picked.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most historical clubs. The fact that the Croatian soccer tournament, as you mentioned, Robbie, will be there on the weekend, and MacArthur, one of the newest, the synergies between the players and staff. It's honestly
the other thing we didn't mention.
Incredible narrative.
Sam Krislovic's mother is not talking to him for the next 2 weeks. He's now persona non grata in his own home. Mum will not answer or field any of his calls. Now, what sort of intimidation is that, Robbie?
I'll keep that for my call. That's fantastic. That's
we're here to help you.
Football unites, and sometimes it divides, doesn't it?
It does.
A little side note, quickly, if I may. I watched that Oakley Heidelberg game. Lachie did a great job calling it as well. It was a fantastic match of football. But what I like most about that, and what Lachie just said as well, and what you just said, George, is that it doesn't have to be the English Premier League to be a great competition, to be entertaining, and that Australians can get behind it and watch it. Fans in Croatia watch Croatian football, fans in Belgium watch Belgian football, fans in Morocco watch Moroccan football. It's not as good as Serie A or La Liga or EPL, but they watch it because it's entertaining, it represents them, it's their thing. That's what we can have here in Australia.
Fantastic stuff. Robbie Thomson's been our guest on FNR State of Our Football Nation. He's been talking about a couple of very important games. The Socceroos and New Zealand's All Whites are playing what they call the centenary matches. 1922. Can we go back 100 years when a first select Australian side played a select New Zealand side? Unfortunately, we lost the first one, Robbie. Do you think we can bounce back and get it?
3, didn't we?
Shh, no, we don't. You're supposed to build it up, not let it out all in one go. Yes,
this is revenge. This is revenge now, you see.
This is revenge. Question mark, we've got a very exciting new season about to start again after a long hiatus. We've had all manner of discussion and everything else going on. We've had the EPL. We've had the most exotic women's Euros, and we saw action there. And the Lionesses delivered something that Britain has not seen since 1966, and it's been wonderful. Where I'm leading now is we've got a brand new season. I think you're getting clear air. Can 10 Play and Paramount Plus deliver with its technology now? A year on, have we made the necessary, or are you aware if they're making the changes that will allow us to enjoy it in the fashion that so many of us have become accustomed? That's all.
We had a big meeting on Monday where we spoke to people from Paramount Plus. We spoke to people from Channel 10. We all got together, all the commentators and co-commentators and hosts and everyone. This came up as part of the discussion. It looks like it's not going to be the answer everyone wanted on the first game of the season, but rest assured it is. And this is not just here that it's an issue. We've just seen the women's football in America on Paramount Plus had a pause button last week for the first time. So in terms of streaming, this is a thing that Paramount are working on very hard. It's not as easy as just clicking your fingers and taking an operating system from somewhere else.
Yep.
These are business decisions that have to be made. Everyone working on Australian football feels the same way as the fans. We all desperately want it. It's our first question when we have these people in front of us as well, is it coming? What can we say when people ask? For the moment, unfortunately, the answer is we are working on it. They are working on it as much as possible. Outside of that, I think, it's not going to be, the football's not going to be on the main Channel 10 this season for purely economic reasons. The channel had to make that decision. But the fact that we have two men's games on Bold, A-League men's, on a Saturday night and a Sunday afternoon is positive for the A-League men's, and all the women is now free streaming on 10 Play as well. So fans of the A-League women and fans of the A-League men are going to get a lot more football that's not behind the paywall on Paramount Plus. And of course, all the other 4 A-League men's matches will be on Paramount Plus, will be streamed, and hopefully it will be up to date as soon as possible. And there's other football as well. There's the FA Cup on there. There's Asian Cup. There's Champions League, Asian Champions League football. It is the one-stop shop for Australian football still, Paramount Plus, and hopefully the technology is on its way.
Okay, a question without notice. Should Sydney do the most exciting thing that you can imagine and they win the Australia Cup, will they be allowed to play in Asia?
This is an interesting one.
That's why I'm throwing it up to you, because I want you to get an answer for us. Lachie seems to think that there are provisions, but they certainly could. The last thing I want is to deny anybody a chance. If you win the right, if you are the champions of Australia, and you have the cup in your hands, then please let the game do the right thing and let everybody represent us, because they've won the right to it. Can you imagine?
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. My query was going to be, Melbourne Victory won it last year, and I don't think they got that opportunity, did they? They fell in the year where there's no continental football for the winners because of the change of calendar. And so I'm wondering how just on a technicality how this is going to work, because the whole calendar of continental football has changed. The Champions League now starts next month, I think.
That's right.
We've aligned calendars. So does this qualify them? Will it be the season after? What about Melbourne Victory, who won it last year?
Wow.
Probably qualified. So
it's the world game. I say to people time and time again, it's the world game, and we have to fit into the world. But let's make sure we don't deny anyone. and
Absolutely. And whoever it is, may
Yep.
they do a great job of
Oh,
representing Australian football better than we have done in the last few seasons in this
touche.
competition.
Yeah. From what is it? From your lips to God's ears. There you go.
Exactly. I don't know if he listens much to me.
Well, Robbie, we might have to revisit that on another occasion. Can I take this opportunity to thank you very much and wish you all success on Sunday when you call the game, the Socceroos and New Zealand from, is it Auckland?
It is Eden Park.
From
1 p.m.
Eden.
kickoff time.
Oh, the biscuit tin. Yes, okay.
Exactly.
You'll get all the correct pronunciations sorted. I think it's exciting. When do you land in New Zealand?
We'll be doing this one. We will have representatives in New Zealand, but I'll be here in Sydney.
Okay. So you're
Following the
doing what
action.
I did in 1984 when I called a Argentinian game from SBS's studios in Milson's Point.
Is that going to be? Is that the?
No,
I don't want to put you on the spot here, George.
No. Yes, go on.
Is this the one with a fantastic goal where they switched play about 8 times in the one moment?
Yeah.
Legendary.
Yeah.
You see, I've got it. It's all stored away in here. My references.
You know what I remember? Your passion for Canberra and all things Canberran, and I'm just wondering if we can see something exciting emerge in the new A-League Cup and the new Australia Cup. Is there a team in Canberra that is capable of going on a big run?
Well, I think we had a semi-finalist, didn't we, a few years ago while I was overseas?
A few years ago. I'm talking about next year, the next season.
I mean, Canberra, Croatia are coming off the back of a pretty solid season in the capital.
You see,
there's Canberra, Croatia. There was Tuggeranong, who had a great team for a few years. Belconnen United, when I was playing in the capital, were one of the big players as well. There's Inter Monaro, or they were Inter Monaro at the time. The team I played for from the age of 6 onwards till about, we won the league under 13s. Until this year, my only ever championship victory. I just won it with the 5th division over 45s.
Which one do you hold dearer? I'm curious to know.
The under 13s. It was a special time. We were a great bunch of kids. But that club no longer exists anymore. Football has changed. So when I go back, I still see a few of my old mates, and I still keep in contact with a couple that I played with back then. They're the stories of football. I mean, I wonder why football's the number one participation sport in the country, is because we're all still playing. We're all still kicking around and we're all playing. And one day Canberra hopefully will be back. I saw Vinnie Grella make his debut for Canberra Cosmos back in 1994, it would have been, or something like that. He was 16. These are the little moments of history that Canberra participated in. Johnny Warren was there. Frank Farina, I think, played for the Canberra Arrows.
Well, I remember Frank Farina at the International Park in Mareeba in far north Queensland in 1976. That's when I first saw him. He was about 16, and he looked the goods. That's the other exciting thing as a commentator, Robbie. I'm sure there's nothing more exhilarating than watching a young player and then saying to yourself, "Gee, they've got something about them," and then watching their career unfold. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Once again, thank you for all your assistance. We wish you and Ten a fabulous football year. Lord knows we need it, but I'm sure that there are enough passionate people who, like you, will help carry the day. Thank you so much, Robbie.
Fantastic, George. Thanks very much. Cheers, Lachie.
Cheers. See, there you go. He was listening to your commentary. And was most.
Well, that's just the sign of what a commentator he is. That he was doing his prep for watching watching NPL games. Not everyone would do that. We thank him very much and wish him all the very best in his travels. Listen, thank you very much for your support today. No, it's been a pleasure.
It's been an hour with Robbie Thomson, and the better part of that is we've got a chance now to understand how important some of these games are. A tremendous opportunity to mark and support 100 years of football between the neighbours across the ditch.
Not sure you could call them noisy neighbours.
No, well, if they win, they'll be telling us all about it. So they'll be pretty noisy. But every time we speak to Jason Pine, how excited he gets. So there'll be an awful lot of people watching.
So I would quite like to watch Jason Pine just watching this game. That to me would be very entertaining.
We'll ask him to record it for us. There you go. And until next week, when the Australia Cup is played, can you imagine a turnover if Sydney Croatia can do the cup set of all cup sets and claim the Australia Cup?
I mean, George,
are you waiting for it?
Well, no, I sort of. I mean, we kind of, Robbie touched on it, and we've spoken about the fact that the Croatian soccer tournament just happens to coincide with the weekend. It's being played at Adenza Park throughout the weekend. I don't think we've really rammed home the scale of what that means. Like the NPL, we've got an NPL versus A-League encounter here, where the number of people in venue, if estimates are to be believed, the number of people supporting the NPL side will dwarf.
Fantastic.
Will double, will triple, maybe even more the amount of people who are supporting the A-League club. Like, when have we ever had a situation in Australian football, even throughout the Australia Cup, where that's really been the case? It's been very rare.
Yeah,
very rare.
True.
And
there are legitimate reasons why it is what it is and what it has to be.
And I think it's a good thing. I think it's
fabulous.
I think it's a fantastic thing. And MacArthur, yes, are they a better side on paper? I know you don't like that phrase.
No. I'm sitting here thinking right now. I'm wondering if we should ring Sam's mum and get her to.
Well, we know that she's a better chance of talking to us than she's of talking to Sam, I guess. So
correct.
There you go.
Correct, right.
But I mean, somewhere in the vicinity of 5,000 to 6,000, maybe even more, Croatian people getting behind, City United in this game.
There'll be 10,000.
The noise that they will make.
There'll be 10,000 there for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
I hope that there is.
It'll be fantastic.
That will be amazing.
Lachie, stand by. We've got a fantastic week of football coming up. The games are on tonight. It's happening as we speak. It's the opportunity to send off our Socceroos in the best way possible. And let's hope, as Robbie touched on, that they play an open, expansive game and they go for it. Arnie and Hus decide to let the boys play. Wouldn't that be exciting?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to us seeing if that happens.
Well, thank you for running the gun and making sure that we haven't fallen off the console. Until next week, more of our State of Our Football Nation on FNR. Thank you, Lachie.
Farewell.
You're listening